Chad, what were you doing in the past that was killing growth in the business?
Well, frankly, when challenges occur in the business, I have jumped immediately into the problem solving mode and doing it myself.
And that kept him trapped in the day to day until he changed it. If your growth is bogging you down, you aren't alone. Most businesses hit what I call the messy middle. That's the stage where the business is bigger, but it's still requiring the owner to work harder than ever to keep up to the growth. Today, you're going to hear how Chad is working through hiring an operations manager so growth doesn't keep pulling him into the day to day. Chad owns Hello Garage of Indianapolis as well as Hello Garage of Cincinnati. They coat concrete floors and provide storage and organization systems that turn your garage into a clean, organized space. I'm Coach Tim Campsall, and this is Self-Made is a Myth. Welcome to the show, Chad.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, hey, let's start at the beginning. We know that stepping into ownership can often requires a leap of faith. So what made you believe that I can do this even without having it all figured out?
Well, I'm a big believer in a formula that Colin Powell quoted, which is P equals 40 to 70. And that's simply put, 40 to 70 is the percent of information needed in order to be able to make a decision. P is the probability of success. That formula has guided me pretty well in my professional life anyway. So when it came time to deciding if I was going to take on a Hello Garage franchise, I didn't know anything about concrete floor coating, but that didn't really bother me a whole lot because I knew I'd figure it out as we went.
Love it. And then after the fact, Chad, now that you've been in it for a little bit, what's been the biggest difference between what you had expected and what ownership was actually like?
Boy, I think just in general, I had a pretty good idea what owning a business. I've had businesses in the past that I really didn't try to grow into anything, but I had a pretty good idea, I think, of what owning a business would be like for me, particularly in the first few years. That said, I think just in general, the amount of learning that I've done, everything from marketing, which I didn't really have to do in my previous businesses. They were all referral-based businesses. This is a good mixture. You have to really get into the marketing funnel, if you will. I didn't know anything about that. That's been I think not a surprise, but I think a lot more in depth than I ever imagined I'd be. And just in general, just understanding the dynamics of getting not just a one location home service-based business up and running, but I did not anticipate having Cincinnati under our umbrella so soon anyway. I hope to expand, but that just came out as a potential last year and we ran with it. So trying to, I think, learn how to run a business, not just in one location, but two totally different cities. That's been a surprise.
That learning curve, it can be a lot, right? Learning, if I play back what I just heard you say, is learning to run a business versus learning to be having bought ourselves a job. So as two locations requires a very different skill set than being the one in the day to day, right?
And Tim, you just hit on it. I did not buy this even as a job. I told myself before I knew Hello Garage was the thing I would be doing that I wanted to be an owner. I did not want to be an operator. I
Yeah.
probably didn't really have the language that I needed yet.
Sure.
I'm just now kind of getting to that point where I'm really understanding the differences, but I knew it existed. I knew that there was something different than just buying a job. I didn't.
Yeah, I love it. So earlier, just to build on that point, you shared that when problems come up, you have a tendency to jump in and historically that's been an impediment to growth. Walk us through that in a little bit more detail. What was happening and what changes have you made to work through that?
Well, the first thing I'd say is by my very nature, I'm a problem solver. I've spent over 30 years in the fire service, and I
Oh,
take
yeah.
a lot of what I've learned there to manage people and equipment and processes and customers. There's not a whole lot of difference in that and run a business. But that said, because of my nature is when I see something that's broken, I jump in to fix it. So when employees bring problems to me, I have a propensity to just simply want to say, I can solve that
Yeah,
because I already have 3 or 4 options in my mind before they get the
sure.
problem fully out to me, right?
Yeah.
And so what that has caused is at times I recognize that those problems, for me, it's a one-time thing. I know the solution and I solve it. but the employee didn't really learn how to solve it. So what I'm
Mm,
starting to really recognize over the last, I would say year is more of a need in the moment when I see a problem is to stop, let my employees have their say in that and really
yeah,
have their hands in the solution. Because
yeah.
if they do that, then less likely I'm going to be needed for the same problem in the future.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And isn't it interesting that we have the right intention of wanting to help and speed up the solution or the resolution, but unintentionally we just teach them to bring us all the problems.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they will. If you let them, they will keep doing it. And I don't think they want that.
Mm,
They just
yeah.
don't know any different, and you program to think that you want them to bring you problems.
Yes. Yes.
I want them to bring solutions to me.
Yes.
And so that's really my focus, and I think as we move through 2026, we're really starting to expand that view,
Love it.
and I talk about it with the employees, everybody on my team, whether it's production, sales, marketing, I am openly telling them that that is what we're working on this year.
Awesome. Love it. So, Chad, it's fun when I'm chatting with business owners who, they lament about everybody always just brings me the problem. So then I ask if a couple of questions like, well, tell me what happens when they bring you the problem, right? And oh, well, I solve it or I fix it, or I'm like, well, then that's why they keep bringing it to
Yeah.
you because you make the pain go away.
Funny you bring up the word pain. I was working through this process today, and I remember one of my thoughts was, "All the pain belongs to me. I need to spread that pain out
Yes.
because though when they feel it, they want to fix it too. They want it to go
Yes.
away."
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned just a minute ago that, generally speaking, they do want to help, right? They do want to, right, take it off of your plate, but we have to be willing to let them fail and let them make some mistakes and learn, right, how to do it well versus just waiting for us to tell them how to do it.
Absolutely.
So, Chad, when thinking back to that, what I'll call the messy middle moment, right, where you're taking on everything or solving all the problems, what's the personal cost to you?
Oh, I think probably like most people watching this are going to feel, and that's, sleepless nights because you're thinking about those problems. Even if you solved it in the moment, you're thinking about what you can maybe do to make it a little better. I am a big believer in done beats perfect. So, I tend
Yes.
to solve it, and I know that there's some edges that need to be cleaned up. So sleepless nights, it takes your eye off of the goal or the focus. I am really trying to be more of at the strategic level in the
Yeah.
organization,
Yeah.
and that robs me of that. So if I jump down to that, what I would call the tactical or task level, then I'm not looking at this strategically any longer. It slows
Yeah.
growth down. It takes our forward momentum away from us.
I love that you've identified it, right? That you understand what it's causing because that awareness and knowledge is the first step, right? To being able to address it and get back to what you said earlier of you bought the business to be the owner, not the operator. And having that clarity of here are areas that you are being pulled into the day to day is a big step forward to preventing that from continuing to happen.
Right. Right.
So when I introduced you, I mentioned that not having an operations manager was another area that can pull you into the day to day, and it's a focus for you moving forward. So give us some context. What's happening, and how does not having that role affect you?
I knew from the start, again, before I even knew Hello Garage, I knew at some point that I would grow the business to the point that I'd want somebody taking care of that day to
Okay.
day. So I've always been thinking about like at what point, what's the trigger for that? And originally, before a second market came into play, I thought, well, I'd probably need to be at not just two, but maybe even three crews deep here in Indianapolis before I could justify that. And the way I
Mm,
saw the opportunity for the first few years would be for me to really work in that role, identify the systems,
yeah,
identify the challenges that they would face, and
sure.
give them the resources. Like be able to build all that so that then when they come in, I could train them. We shouldn't be learning this together. And when I added Cincinnati, it added a second crew. So if you go off of the two or three crews, we're not quite there yet, but distance makes a difference.
Yeah,
And
right. Yeah.
so just by doing that, things are a little further complicated.
Mm,
So right now I'm in the process of really understanding what that does for that position. I have identified the perfect person for the role, and we've spoken, and it's just a matter of timing for both of us.
Okay.
But I'm still in the middle of really trying to get that second crew up and running and
Yeah.
identify some of those gaps. But I think that's going to be a complete game changer for me, and I'm willing to delay my financial gratitude.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been withholding like most owners. I don't take a paycheck from this thing quite yet. And while this year I thought I would, once I bought Cincinnati, I knew I'll just delay that a little bit longer because in the long run, that's gonna make a bigger difference in my own life.
Yeah, yeah. So, Chad, it sounds like you're well on your way and you've got a good plan in place. On the flip side, just for context and understanding, if it doesn't get fixed, if the operation manager role doesn't get inserted into the business, what does that cost the business overall?
Well, I think that's probably hard to really you can't put a number on it. I suppose there is a number that exists. So it will cost us, I think, financially speaking, because we are not as organized as we should be.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll also say I'm essentially a part-time general manager because I do have a full-time job
Sure.
still.
Yeah.
That job affords me the luxury to look at this a little bit even on the days I'm at that job.
Yeah.
That said, I think it just slows us down, which means, in the long run, looking backward, we won't have the same amount of revenue each year that we
Mm,
would have. And I probably don't understand my margins as well as I would like to. And honestly, the person that I've got in mind for that's going to be somebody, he even brings that to the table. I think
nice.
he's a little more detailed oriented than I am. I'm kind of a big picture guy. I have to really work hard to see the details, and generally speaking, I rely on other people to kind of bring some of those to me, anyways. So it's hard to say what it's really costing us
Sure.
out, other than just I think it's actually slowing and impeding our growth, not having that position
Okay.
filled.
Yeah. I like, again, self-awareness, what you just mentioned of, right, you're more of a big picture strategic person and need to have somebody who's more boots on the ground, detail oriented to complement your big picture thinking. And that's an awesome understanding and awareness because we all have strengths and we all have areas that we're not as strong on. So bringing in a team member who complements you is a huge benefit to the organization.
Yeah, I think the quicker we understand our strengths and identify somebody that helps us out in our weaknesses, I think the quicker we get there, the better
Yeah.
off we are as an organization.
Yeah. We use DISC assessments for that. And
Yes.
it's a great tool to say, hey, we've got a gap, right? And nobody's playing pick a letter role. And so we've got to either intentionally hire for that or somebody has to be willing to play that role so that we have a full, complete perspective on moving the business forward.
Yeah, I think my standard disc, I've done the disc analysis multiple times over my adult life. And I'm a D with a really high I, and then the S and C are almost not existent. And that has, depending on the role I've been in, maybe sometimes the D is a little higher than the I. But
Sure.
yeah, I need an S and C in my world.
The way I typically explain that is really good at taking the off the plane, right, and going in a direction, but not as strong at landing the plane and the
Yeah.
details of what it takes to, yeah, bring it back
Well,
down.
I already told you the P equals 40 to 70 thing.
Yeah,
I'm a 40% guy. I know that.
yeah, I love it. And on the other flip side, right, the company needs that person, right, to have the ideas and the fortitude of thinking outside of the box and right and the tenacity to do whatever it takes to win and succeed. And if we don't have that, then the S's and C's are, kind of don't matter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there has to be that balance.
So, Chad, what lesson do you wish that you had learned sooner? And what did not knowing that or having that knowledge cost you?
Well, struggling to remember what we said in the pre-interview, you talk about those things, but what keeps coming back really to me is the lesson I needed to learn was really how to step back and when I see problems, identifying problems is fine. I mean, I should
Yeah.
be looking for them every day,
Yeah.
but finding a way to really engage the rest of the team to solve those problems. If I and I think I do okay at that, but I realized if I'd have been a lot more purposeful with that on day one,
Yeah.
I would likely be further along than I am now.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the lesson. And if somebody's looking at starting a business, I think if they took some time to kind of determine how they're going to go through that part of life,
Yeah.
they'd be better off.
Yeah. So as a trained firefighter who is hard coded to fix problems right away before they spread, how have you retrained yourself to be able to pause and let the team do it instead?
Well, the good news is even though that's kind of my default as a firefighter, we also have a lot of systems that we rely on in that
Yeah.
world. And I've spent a lot of years training firefighters. So I trained them on systems and I trained them on mindset and leadership. And none of this is new.
Sure.
It's all just recycled.
Yep.
There's nothing new in any of those genres. So, I think for me, it's just really becoming more purposeful on
Mm,
systems, and the system, part of the system really is identifying if I'm predisposed to that. When I see it, is the first part of that system is just pausing.
mm,
And just, if somebody's telling me a problem, is just listen to the whole thing
yeah.
without providing any feedback on it. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
it's just wait until they're done, give them an opportunity before I give feedback. I'll still give feedback, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't, unless they just nailed my thoughts 100%, and I think
Yeah.
that's gonna do it, then, certainly I can encourage them, but at the same time, we're only better because we all come with the ideas. My
Right.
ideas aren't the best.
Yeah.
Theirs may or may not be, but if we
Yeah.
if we put them together. So, just to answer your question back to, yeah, just following a system for that. I
Yeah.
think it's okay to have that decision making tree.
Love it. Yes. Systems are super important, and when we create a good one and we follow it, the outcome is significantly better than just shooting from the hip, right?
Absolutely.
So, Chad, we know that self-made is a myth. Who are the three people in your business journey that were most impactful to allowing you to have the successes that you've had so far, and how'd they help you along the way? So who are the three people and how'd they help you?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to start with my girlfriend, Mindy. She has been 100% just supportive and behind this, and really had no reason to be. I mean, I think, due to just past experiences for her, she had some anxiety initially around. She was there from the beginning when I was just starting this journey, but it quickly evolved. She saw my tenacity. I think she really saw my drive. And since then, when I have those days where it's a bit of a struggle, she's the one I voice them to. And she has not once told me I'm right when I'm pessimistic. She's like, you always solve these things, you get through it, you're further along than you've ever been. So I think her first and foremost. I have to say, I'm just going to say everybody that I have working here at
Mm,
Hello Garage, particularly the Cincinnati crew, the Indianapolis crew. Cincinnati crew is just forming, and they
yeah.
are doing great things there. But to get our foothold, my sales team, actually I had two sales team members to begin with. One who's moved on to some better opportunities, but he's still a good friend. Both those guys came on from the very beginning and
Mm,
shared leads and shared calls and took, when there weren't enough clients for all of them, for both of them, they still did it. And
mm,
now it's busy enough that I need more than the one I have, I think,
yeah.
as well as Patrick and Truman, who are my full time installers. And I've got a couple strong part timers, Sam and Vinny, and I've had some firefighters step up, and I too many
I-
to name, quite honestly, in that
yeah.
category. And I think beyond that, I've just had. It's hard to name them all because I've had so many close friends that
Mm,
have supported me in different ways, whether it be some help financially at the beginning to kind of get through the SBA process, or just people that have constantly referred me,
mhm.
whether they knew my work or not. So I didn't give you three. There's no limit. So at least I gave you one specific thing.
I love it. Um, the home on the home front, it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
The journey of a business owner is certainly not linear. So having strong support at home is super important on this roller
It's
coaster called business owner.
And it's a scary thing, and you can only imagine I can only imagine how scary it is for somebody who's not even in the day to day.
Mm.
I mean, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it should be scarier if you saw it. At the same time, when you're only hearing the negatives, and
Yeah,
that's right, not true. She hears the wins as well. But when you hear a lot of negatives,
yeah.
that, that's real stuff. So yeah, having somebody supportive there makes the difference.
And the reality of right business ownership is it can be lonely at the top. The person that generally gets to hear all of the stuff, right, is a significant other because we certainly can't tell our staff that we're worried about whether we're going to make payroll tomorrow or not.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't too much. I'm probably one of the I'm in a smaller percentage because I am very open and honest with them where we're at where with our growth. But at the same time, I'm also telling them what steps we need to take to get to the next position. So, but you're right. You can only tell them so much. You can't.
Chad, in your journey when you felt stuck or overwhelmed, what belief about figuring it out on your own held you back and what changed once you brought others into that perspective?
Again, I don't. I think back to what I may or may not said in the forum at the time. I will say, if I'm honest with myself, my mindsets weren't really the limiting beliefs. I mean, I again, I don't know why I'm blessed with this, but for the
Yeah.
most part, if I don't know how something's going to go, I go after it anyway.
Hmm.
I was not hesitant to do this. I was only, if there was any hesitancy, it was until I figured out Fellow Garage was the right company to partner with.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
in fact, I mean, in my final interview with them, before I bought the franchise, I even remember talking to them about and telling them that if this doesn't work out in 2 years, I'm going to be successful in something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think they saw a tenacious side of me that
Yeah.
but they seem to like the way I approach it.
Yeah.
But overall, I have followed my own advice because when I talk to people who tell me they want to start a business, I ask them immediately, "Why haven't you?" And they start giving me all the reasons. I say, "Well, those are all excuses, and none of them matter."
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you don't know anything until you're actually doing it, and then you find
Yeah.
out how much you don't know, and then you
Yeah.
start chipping away at it. I wish I'd have kept a list of all the things I've learned in the last years. I could probably recreate it, but it would be lacking.
Right.
It's been a book. So no, I don't think there's much that's changed from that standpoint.
Yeah. What about so just building on what you said earlier of because you are tenacious and you are going to figure it out, has figuring it out on your own been has anything shifted when you've let go of that of I can just do it on my own versus let me bring in some outside perspective and help fast track the learning curve?
Well, I'm gonna take a page out of your book here of self-made is a myth, right? I never once thought I'm gonna figure this out on my own. Now,
Mm,
I'm self-reliant from the standpoint of I'm not gonna allow someone else to stand in the way of what I'm doing because
yeah.
people will, right? People will all the time tell you you can't do it, it can't be done,
Yeah.
it's silly what you're doing, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Now, I'll listen to advice when people tell me here's the risks,
Yeah.
but from day one, I brought people around me. Hello Garage is good at that. They've got a lot of coaches.
Hmm.
Now I take that with a grain of salt as well. They know that. They give me their take on things, and it's
Sure.
my job to figure out how it works here.
Yeah.
Marketing, that's one person I probably should have mentioned in the three, and that's Jennifer and Jeremy Brilliant, who's brilliant marketing. They're great friends of mine, and
Mm,
they gave me their services before they had a marketing company. But I knew I needed that. So I went to
mm,
her and I said, Jennifer, help me out with this, help me understand
yeah.
this. I'm constantly talking to other people, whether
Yeah.
it be other businesses and business owners, or it's people that have other knowledge,
Sure.
yourself, my banker,
Yeah.
I mean, anybody and everybody that I can grab information from. So
Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that respect. So if I ever start falling into that category of, I just do this myself, I do pretty well at pulling back and going, wait a minute, who do I know that knows
Oh,
this?
good. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do this on your own. It's a team sport.
Yeah. So having that knowledge for folks that are listening, this question is going to sound to you, Chad, pretty obvious, but maybe impactful for those listening. What's the benefit of the outside perspective in those different scenarios that you listed?
Reduce learning curve. Like you
Mm,
flatten that curve in a hurry. Because I have, don't get me wrong, Tim, I have had things in my life where I spent a lot of time trying to figure out. Usually I find that's when I run into something where I'm doing and nobody else that I know has done.
hmm.
That doesn't exist as much anymore, thanks to right? Thanks to you too. Thanks to
Sure.
have
Yeah.
you on there to share information. So that's, I think, the extent of figuring out on my own is going and finding people that you can learn from. But the easiest answer is you flatten that curve.
Mhm.
As soon as you got to identify what the questions are, identify who you think can answer it.
Yeah.
And what you'll
Yeah.
find is when you get to those folks, they'll tell you other people that you should be talking to
Right.
because
Yeah.
they all figured that out too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the picture that you just put in my head of flattening the learning curve because our business can only grow to our level of knowledge and our skill set. And so
Absolutely.
by accelerating that, then the business naturally accelerates along with your learning curve. So yeah, that's awesome. Chad, if all the people that you talked about that have helped you along the way, and it sounds like there's been many who have blessed you in your journey, they were all here on the show today. What would you want to say to them?
Thank you doesn't seem adequate. At my pain level when getting this thing started was greatly reduced by every single
Mhm.
one of them. I probably haven't expressed that as well as I should have. And I would just simply say, I hope they know me well enough to know that I'll pay that forward. I try to uh, give that same thing to others. I pride myself when a new franchise owner comes on the scene with Ella Garage. I try to get to know them. I try to help out. I try to
Mm.
grab information from them. See, even competitors, I've even had some of the competitors in the concrete floor coating space. A couple of new ones in particular that I've um, walked up to, gave words of encouragement and, lended resources. And why? One, because I think it's the right thing to do, and I
Mm.
think competitors are not something to be afraid of. I think they make us all better, and I think there's enough out there for all of us if we are honest with ourselves. And then the other thing is I've had other competitors that have done that for me. They've
Mm.
provided me encouragement, sometimes resources in the way of equipment and even referrals. So I would tell everyone that I'm taking everything they've given me and I'm using it for good. It's not just for myself, and I'll be forever grateful for what they've poured into me.
Fantastic. Well, they all know now because you just said it and they're going to listen to this recording. So thank you for sharing. Chad, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
I appreciate it, Tim. It's been good being on here. Thank you for the time.
If you're stuck in the messy middle, there's a way through it and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Our 2-week training and coaching trial helps you to get clear on what needs to change and how. The link is in the description. And if this conversation resonated, like it, comment on it, and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. I'll see you next time. Awesome.